Multiple sclerosis turns me into a hostage of my own body. Some days I can almost walk normally. In those moments I let myself dream that the diagnosis I got 8 years ago was just a huge mistake. But then come the bad days, when every step is a battle against muscle spasms and deep pain that leaves me exhausted. On those days I rely on the kindness of others and small conveniences, like the wheelchairs that supermarkets offer to customers with limited mobility. Subscribe to the channel and leave your like to get access to more stories like this. I had just turned 42 when the disease first appeared. Now at 50 I've learned how to navigate a world that isn't always welcoming for people like me. On particularly tough days my cane isn't enough and I have to turn to the store's wheelchairs. I never thought I would have to fight just to use one. I woke up that Wednesday feeling like every inch of my body was in rebellion. The heavy rain against the window only made things worse. Humidity always intensifies my symptoms. Unfortunately, I couldn't stay home. My assistant's check had been deposited and I needed to buy groceries and medicine. I postponed it as long as I could, but when the pain in my knees became unbearable, I knew it was time to face the storm. I put on my raincoat, grabbed my cane and drove to the nearest Value Mart. It was a struggle to get out of the car in the heavy rain, and I quickly realized that all the disabled parking spots were taken. I had to park far away, which meant a painful walk to the entrance. When I finally arrived, soaking wet and exhausted, I spotted Salvation, the store's wheelchairs lined up at the entrance. As I got closer, I noticed a woman in her mid-30s wearing high heels and sports clothes moving quickly across the parking lot. She didn't seem to be limping or showing any sign of discomfort while walking. Suddenly, when she saw me approaching the wheelchairs, she hurried up and practically ran ahead of me, grabbing the last available chair. "Excuse me," I said politely, "I'm going to need that chair. I have multiple sclerosis and today is especially tough for me." The woman looked me up and down with contempt. "Sorry, but I twisted my ankle in yoga class this morning. I need it too." I was confused. She had just run right in front of me in high heels with no sign of pain. "I'm sorry, but I just saw you walking normally a moment ago. And those heels." "You can't judge invisible pain," she interrupted abruptly. "Just because I don't seem to be hurting doesn't mean I'm not." I got to the chair first. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my cool. I understand invisible conditions better than most. I live with one. But you literally ran to get that chair when you saw me coming, and you're wearing high heels, which would be impossible with a twisted ankle. "Are you calling me a liar?" she snapped, her voice high. Several people started looking our way. "No, I'm just saying that your need seems less urgent than mine right now." "Well, too bad. I got it first." She sat in the chair, placed her expensive bag on her lap and started to walk away. I stood there, soaked, with stabbing pains in my legs, watching her push the chair inside the store, occasionally using her feet to move faster, another sign that her ankle was perfectly fine. With difficulty I moved on, leaning heavily on my cane. Every step was agonizing. I grabbed a shopping cart for support, but even that wasn't enough. After only 10 minutes, my right leg started shaking uncontrollably, a clear sign that I was reaching my limit. I saw the woman gliding calmly through the aisles in the wheelchair, seemingly having fun spinning around like a kid playing. When our eyes met, she quickly put on a pained expression and started massaging her ankle dramatically. I couldn't take it anymore. I found an employee and asked if I could speak with the manager. In a few minutes, a man in his 50s with a badge reading Thomas, manager, came over. "How can I help you, sir?" he asked politely. "I need assistance with an accessibility issue," I replied, trying to be discreet. "I have multiple sclerosis and I'm really struggling to get around today. I came to use one of the store's wheelchairs, but that lady took the last one available, claiming she twisted her ankle, even though she ran in front of me using high heels." Thomas nodded, his face showing understanding as he noticed my visibly trembling leg. "Let's go talk to her," he said, helping me steady myself as we slowly walked to the section where Amanda was casually picking out some fruit, showing no sign of discomfort. "Excuse me," Thomas began politely. "We seem to have a situation here. This gentleman has a documented medical condition and is having serious difficulty moving around today. I noticed you're using one of our wheelchairs. Could we please figure out another solution that works for both of you?" Amanda immediately put on an overly pained expression. "I'm sorry, but I twisted my ankle this morning in yoga class. I really need this chair." "I understand," Thomas replied patiently. "Do we have another wheelchair available in the back?" he asked a nearby employee, who shook his head. "Unfortunately, all of them are either in use or under maintenance," the employee said. Amanda smiled triumphantly, adjusting herself in the chair. At that exact moment, her injured leg accidentally bumped into a display and she showed no reaction of pain. When she realized we were watching, she quickly made a grimace and rubbed her ankle. I insisted, my voice trembling from the pain I was feeling, "Please, I'm hurting so much right now. I can barely stand." "It's not my fault you didn't come earlier," she retorted coldly. "I have just as much right to this chair as anyone. You're not the only one with problems." Thomas tried again. May I offer you personal assistance with your shopping while we let this customer use the chair? I can even offer you a discount on your total today as a thank you for your understanding." Amanda's face hardened. "This is discrimination. You're doubting my injury? I'm going to sue this store. Actually, I'm calling the police right now." To my surprise, she actually grabbed her phone and started dialing. Thomas and I exchanged looks of disbelief. "I don't think that's necessary," Thomas began. "It is totally necessary," she exclaimed dramatically. "I'm being harassed because of my disability." "Hello? Police? I want to report a discrimination case against people with disabilities at Value Mart on Main Avenue." 15 stressful minutes later, 2 uniformed officers, their badges identifying them as Officer Rodriguez and Officer Taylor, entered the store. Meanwhile, Thomas had offered me a chair from the home furnishings section to sit temporarily, for which I was extremely grateful. "What's going on here?" asked Officer Rodriguez, a woman with a serious and professional expression. Amanda immediately assumed a victim role. "These men are harassing me and questioning my injury. I twisted my ankle this morning and I need this wheelchair, but they're trying to force me to give it up." I sighed, exhausted. "Officer, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 8 years ago. Today is especially tough for me, and when I arrived at the store, this lady literally ran in high heels, to grab the last available wheelchair before I could get to it." Officer Taylor turned to Thomas. "Are you an employee?" "I'm the store manager," Thomas confirmed. I tried to mediate the situation by offering the lady personal assistance with her shopping and a discount, but she refused. Officer Rodriguez looked at Amanda. "Could you please show us your ID?" Amanda seemed momentarily uncomfortable before rummaging through her bag and handing over her driver's license. The officer noted the details. "And what about your vehicle? Where is it parked?" asked Officer Rodriguez. Amanda hesitated. In front of the store." "In a regular spot or a disabled spot?" the officer pressed. Amanda looked away. "I was in a hurry because of my ankle." At that moment, Thomas cleared his throat. "Officers, if you allow me, we have security cameras covering the entire parking lot and the entrance of the store. Maybe that can clear things up." Amanda's face visibly paled. Thomas led the officers and Amanda to the security room, while an employee helped me with a modified shopping cart so that I could sit and still do my shopping. About 20 minutes later, everyone returned, the officers with stern expressions, Thomas looking satisfied, and Amanda completely furious. Officer Rodriguez approached me. "Sir, we'd like to apologize for the inconvenience. The wheelchair will be available for you now." Amanda was being gently removed from the chair by Officer Taylor, her act completely unmasked. "This is ridiculous." "You can't prove anything," she shouted, completely abandoning her pretense of being injured. Said Officer Rodriguez firmly, "The security cameras clearly show that you parked your vehicle not just in one, but in 2 spots reserved for people with disabilities without having the necessary ID card. The footage also shows you running, with no sign of any difficulty, to grab the wheelchair before this gentleman got to it. At no point do you show any mobility issues or signs of pain until you started faking after taking the chair. So what? It isn't a crime to use a wheelchair. Amanda protested, her voice echoing in the aisle. It isn't, agreed Officer Taylor. But illegally parking in disabled spots is an offense that carries a $500 fine per spot. Since you took up 2 spots, that comes to $1,000. Amanda's jaw dropped. $1,000? That's absurd. Besides, continued Officer Rodriguez, consulting her notepad, according to the city code, defrauding or abusing facilities intended for people with disabilities is an infraction, subject to an additional $200 fine. That totals $1,200 in fines. You can't do this. Amanda screamed, her face red with anger. I'm going to sue all of you. You have every right to contest the fines in court, Officer Rodriguez replied calmly, handing her the citations. But I must inform you that we have very conclusive video evidence that will be presented should you choose to take that route. Amanda snatched the papers from the officer's hand, shoved them into her designer bag and stormed out of the store, completely forgetting about her supposed ankle injury, walking perfectly fine in her 10 cm heels. Officer Taylor helped me settle into the now available wheelchair. I'm sorry about all this, sir. May I ask if you have any documentation of your medical condition, just for our records? Without hesitation, I pulled out my wallet and showed my disability ID card, along with a letter from my neurologist that I always carried for situations like these. Perfect, thank you, he said, returning my documents after checking them. I wish you a good recovery today. Thomas, who had stayed by my side throughout the entire encounter, seemed deeply embarrassed. On behalf of Value Mart, I'd like to sincerely apologize for this terrible experience. This should never have happened. It wasn't your fault, I replied, feeling the immediate relief the wheelchair brought to my aching legs. Even so, Thomas insisted, this showed me a serious flaw in our system. We shouldn't allow situations like this to occur. He paused, thoughtful. Starting today, I'm going to implement a new policy. Anyone who needs to use our wheelchairs will have to show some kind of ID or medical documentation, just like you did for the officers. Nothing too bureaucratic, just enough to ensure that the wheelchairs are available to those who really need them. That sounds reasonable, I agreed. And it will probably avoid situations like today. Also, Thomas continued, I'd like to offer you personal assistance to finish your shopping today, and a 25% discount on everything you buy, as compensation for the trouble. I smiled, grateful for his kindness. Thank you, Thomas. I gladly accept. As he pushed me through the aisles, helping me reach items on the top shelves and carrying my basket, Thomas shared that his own mother suffered from severe rheumatoid arthritis. That's why I took your situation so seriously, he explained. I see how my mother struggles on her bad days, and how frustrating it is when people who don't really need to use resources meant for people like you and her take them. We finished shopping at a leisurely pace, allowing my body to rest while I managed to get everything I needed. Helpful employees assisted in packing my groceries and loading them into my car, which Thomas had discreetly arranged to be moved to a vacant disabled spot that had been freed up. As they put the last bags in the trunk, I saw Amanda in the parking lot, gesticulating furiously on her phone, probably complaining about the fines or maybe already calling a lawyer. Our eyes met for a moment, and she quickly looked away, pretending not to recognize me. Before I left, Thomas handed me his personal card. If you need anything on future visits, don't hesitate to call me directly. I'll make sure a wheelchair is reserved for you if you let us know in advance. That would make a huge difference, I said sincerely. I usually try to plan my outings on good days, but it's not always possible to predict when my symptoms will worsen. I totally understand, Thomas nodded. My mom says living with a chronic illness is like waking up every day not knowing which version of yourself is going to show up. That phrase really touched me. Your mom is a wise woman. That's exactly how I feel. While driving home, I reflected on what had happened. Despite the unpleasant experience, I felt a strange sense of victory, not because I defeated Amanda, but because I stood up for my rights and the rights of other people with disabilities and chronic conditions. When I went back to Value Mart the following week, I was pleasantly surprised to see that Thomas had kept his promise. A new system was in place, a small counter near the wheelchairs with an employee on duty specifically to assist people with mobility needs. A discreet sign explained the new policy, emphasizing the store's commitment to ensuring that accessibility resources went to those who really needed them. The young attendant smiled when I approached. "Good morning, sir. Do you need mobility assistance today?" I showed my ID card and he quickly registered my details on a tablet. "Thank you. This is just for our internal records. Next time you come in, just tell us your name." He helped me get settled in the wheelchair and asked, "Would you like assistance with your shopping today, or do you prefer to go by yourself?" "I can manage," I replied, impressed with the efficiency of the new system. "Perfect. And if you need any help, we have employees wearing these special badges," he pointed to a badge with the universal accessibility symbol, who have been trained specifically to assist customers with various needs. While walking down the aisles, I noticed that I wasn't the only one benefiting from the changes. An elderly lady was being gently assisted by an employee who adjusted the height of her walker. In another aisle, a young man with crutches received help reaching items on high shelves. Over my regular visits in the following weeks, Thomas always made sure to greet me personally. On one of those occasions, he shared with me that the incident had triggered a complete review of Value Mart's accessibility policies. "Your experience prompted our headquarters to implement disability and chronic condition awareness training in all branches," he explained with evident pride. "And that's not all, we're investing in more accessibility equipment and creating a priority program for customers with special needs." "That's fantastic," I replied, genuinely impressed. It's amazing to see something so positive come from that unpleasant situation. Sometimes you need an incident like that to show us where we can improve, Thomas reflected. "I just regret that you had to go through it." About a month after the incident, I was shopping when I spotted a familiar face in the cleaning products aisle. It was Amanda. For a moment I considered avoiding her, but she had already seen me and, surprisingly, didn't look away. As we got closer, I noticed something different about her. Her expression seemed less arrogant, more subdued. When our paths crossed, she stopped, hesitated for a few seconds, and then spoke softly. "Look, I wanted to apologize for what happened. It was really stupid on my part." I was momentarily speechless, never expecting this kind of interaction. "I had to do community service," she continued, looking slightly embarrassed. "Part of my sentence after I fought the fines and lost. The judge made me work 40 hours at a rehabilitation center for people with multiple sclerosis." "Really?" I asked, genuinely surprised. She nodded. "Yes." It was eye-opening. I had never really understood what it was like. "I always thought that." She stopped, rethinking her words. "Well, I guess I never really thought about it." I looked at her closely, trying to decide if her contrition was genuine or just for show. To my surprise, there was a flash of sincerity in her eyes. "I'm still paying the fines in installments," she added. "And I had to take an accessibility awareness course." "I hope it was helpful," I replied, without any sarcasm. "It was humiliating," she admitted. "But necessary, I guess. Anyway, I just wanted to say that I'm truly sorry." Before I could respond properly, she quickly walked away, as if she'd used up all her quota of humility for the day. I stood there, processing what had happened. Had Amanda really learned something from the experience? Or was she just fulfilling the court's requirements? It was impossible to know for sure, but the fact that she bothered to apologize meant something. On my way to the checkout, I ran into Thomas again, who looked curious about my interaction with Amanda. "Did she really apologize?" he asked incredulously. "Seems like it," I replied. Apparently, she had to do community service at a rehab center for people with multiple sclerosis. Thomas shook his head, impressed. "I'd say that's poetic justice." "In a way," I agreed. Even if it took a $1,200 fine and a court order for her to understand the impact of her actions. Some people only learn when they're forced to face the consequences, Thomas observed. That conversation stuck with me for a long time. Reflecting on everything that happened, I realized that the incident, even with all its inconveniences and stress, had resulted in tangible positive changes. Not just at Value Mart, but in my own life. I discovered a voice I didn't know I had, a voice for advocacy not only for myself, but for everyone who faces similar barriers. As for Amanda, I never saw her again after that brief encounter in the aisle. I sincerely hope that her time at the rehabilitation center planted real seeds of empathy, and not just taught her to check for security cameras before acting selfishly. Subscribe to the channel and leave your like to get access to more stories like this. In the end, maybe the true moral of the story isn't about some entitled Karen facing consequences for her actions, but about how even small moments of confrontation can spark huge waves of change. And about how sometimes standing up for yourself not only helps you, but paves the way for everyone who comes after.